Hello, everyone, and welcome to Four Lads Rangers Weekly Podcast. My name is Stevie Clifford, joined by an elite group this evening, and Andrew Anderson, who is back from the abyss on the Monday night. But he is here. Kenny also with us, and Andrew Stewart. Boys, good to have you all on. A lot to go through. There always is. It's Rangers. It's another disappointing weekend. What do we say? I don't know if there's much more to say, Kenny. Great to have you back on, mate, first of all. I know you missed a couple of shows, so it's great to have you back. I don't think there's much more we can say. You know, people would have joined in on our kind of live podcast on Saturday, and I was very angry. A lot of people would have seen that. And I don't think you could have really hid that in any way at all. But you would have seen the game on Saturday. What more do you say?
Nothing. It's just been like this all season, Stevie. This team just lets you down. A really pathetic performance, which we're used to. And there's not an awful lot else you can say. I actually have, when I was coming on, I actually thought about it. I'm really not going to talk about Saturday very much because we've been doing this since July, in pre-season. Performances all the way through this entire season from the get-go have been pathetic. And I've said it before on here, Stevie, that there's a lack of professionalism in that squad of players, and there's no getting away from that. So, I'm just kind of scunnered with it. The quicker this season ends, the better for me. And when Andrew lives in Paisley there, I work in Paisley, and when they're taking 7 points off you over the course of the season, and if you actually recall the first game, we were very lucky to win that. Olasanya ragdolled Robin Proper about the place in the first game at Ibrox, so that's where Rangers are. If you remember, this is where this Rangers team is. That you're on a par with St Mirren. They should be ashamed of themselves, mate. That's my take on it.
Well, they're not actually on a par with St Mirren, are they? Because they've got a better results than us this season. Unfortunately, guys, you will see the member banners going along the bottom. We've actually had to make 2 banners now. There's so many of you signed up to the membership and helping the show, which we absolutely love. Andrew open forum a bit. On a day that our rivals win the title, we have players, our own players, doing goggle celebrations and shushing our own crowd. Have you ever seen a bunch of players as misguided as the ones we currently are? 17 points behind, and this is how they are behaving. Barry Ferguson said they just plainly won't listen to him and don't follow instructions, boys. How do you deal with a group that are so out of touch the way this lot are?
As soon as I seen Cyril do the celebration, I was just thinking Josh Windass, which you go back to that time with Josh Windass and that team and some of the results that we had in that kind of tenure, that was painful to watch, and it's like nothing has changed. But even in itself, nothing has changed from the last St Mirren game and the game before that. There's been not a positive result, not a positive individual performance in any of the games against St Mirren in the ties this season, which is Kenny's alluded to. Yeah, I live in Paisley, my best mate's a St Mirren fan, and he gave me some pelters for it every single time this season, which is awful because you can't rebuttal with anything because there's nothing to rebuttal with. But I mean, this is, Kenny again said, he could have said this all the way back since the start of the season, changed, and yeah, call it quits.
Yeah, I would have called it quits in pre-season, Andrew, when we were talking about how badly this team were performing at Birmingham and Man United and all sorts of stuff. But this group are so out of touch. Andrew Anderson, it really did surprise me just by that. I mean, what are they playing at? Like, we're this is on a day where, again, they think that that's okay. And they didn't even win the game. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, I think, see, when it comes down to it, and we talk about a lot of kind of disappointment towards this group and everything else and these players, and we talk about the fact that they don't get it and they don't understand. And people say that's really harsh, and you know, the players aren't doing this, blah, 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 blah. And then they do that. It's hard to defend them. You can't defend it.
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt to. They haven't earned that. They've underperformed consistently throughout this season because we know that they can perform. We know that if they feel like it, if they're in the mood for it, they will put in a performance. We've seen them deliver that in Old Firm games, in European ties. We've seen them raise their game. The problem that we have is that, for whatever reason, performance levels consistently are under where they need to be in league games. And at this stage, when two managers now are both saying that they can't get anything more out of these players, because Clement said the same thing. And I'm not trying to defend him on that basis because there were other reasons why we had to get rid of him as a manager. But the underperformance that we see from this squad of players consistently is why, frankly, a lot of the fan base is disengaged with them. But I think it's also why the players seem disengaged as well, because I don't think many of them think that they're going to be here next season. I think they have mentally checked out. They had their last big game already, and now for them it's ticking down to the end. I feel the same way, but I'm not being paid thousands of pounds to play for Rangers. They are. So it's deeply disappointing to see the levels we're at, but unfortunately, I don't really see a lot of hope for the next 4 games because these players just look like they're completely mentally away now.
Yeah, sadly, they've looked like they've been mentally checked out since October. I can't defend this group anymore, Kenny. I really can't, and I won't try to. I was absolutely disgusted with them on Saturday yet again. I think that Barry's come in and inherited an absolute shit show, and people have said, why doesn't he change it, and why doesn't he try and do things, and he could change formation, he could do that. Well, he's tried to change formation to help him. It hasn't worked. I don't know what massive changes he can really make. Could he play Danilo or Cortez, etc.? Yeah, he probably could, but I'm not sure that he trusts them enough. It certainly doesn't look like it. I just, thank Christ there is a new horizon coming, because if there wasn't, we would be at the front doors, because it's nothing short of a total mess.
This squad of players have got off lighter than any other squad of players I can ever remember, actually, because you know all these the goggles and the shushing and all this nonsense, right? It reminded me way back. Do you remember we beat them 4-0? I think if I remember right, Gio and Chelsea scored in that particular game, and right after it, I think it was right after the game, Johan Mayalby turned around and said, "We're still the best team in the country," and they were 20 points behind. It's that levels of delusion that we're looking at with our squad of players. They genuinely believe they are a fine group of players or something. I don't know what it is. And you're right. If it wasn't for the fact that, the news of this takeover broke in, what was it, February or whatever it was now. Can't remember exactly when it was, to be honest. But there would have been... They would have been swarming at the front doors, mate. It's ridiculous how bad this is. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that I genuinely believe this is one of the poorest Rangers teams I've ever seen in my life. I've seen teams when I was a child, when I was a young boy, I've seen Rangers teams finish 4th and 5th, and I'll tell you what, they'd beat this team because they had a bit of heart and a bit of dig and a bit of fight about them, and they'd have just kicked this team up and down the park. And that's exactly what this team can't cope with. A little bit of physicality, a little bit of, in your face strength, all these things. They can't cope with it. And that's where we're at. And as I say, I just genuinely feel I can't wait for this season to get finished, get it moving on. The takeover looks to be well underway, doesn't it? It's well on its way now, but they've got a free pass, this team.
They shouldn't have. No, they shouldn't have though, Kenny. That's the thing. We have given them we have given them a free pass because we blamed everybody else. We blamed the manager and everything else, and they shouldn't get it. They shouldn't get it, Kenny, because see, come the summer, bar maybe one or two, and that's pushing it. Everybody can leave, and we won't blink an eyelid to who goes, and that's the truth.
I've said it already. There is not one of them that I wouldn't consider offers for, and it's the truth. It might sound harsh because there's some good players in there. There's no doubt in that, but you've got to question that mentality in that dressing room. And if I'm being ruthless about it, it needs emptied. I mean, it just needs emptied, the place. And listen, there's no sugarcoating being 17 points behind before games to go and shushing your own supporters. And this is just ridiculous. It's pathetic. And it kind of tells you, as I say, more about their take on things. They're checked out a long time ago. And we don't check out, Stevie. None of us that go there ever check out. And it's insulting to us. And that's the kind of take that I have on it, that they're just insulting us now with these performances, and they should be ashamed of themselves, as I said. I just can't wait for this to take over, mate. This takeover to happen.
I completely agree, Andrew. I don't want to concentrate on Saturday. There's no point in going through individual stuff because it had everything. Shooter mistakes, Dessers misses, defence was a mess, midfield non-existent. What's the point? Because we've been through it all. Defence, people not good enough, formation's not working. No wonder Barry's shaking his head all the time, because these guys, honestly, let everybody down time and time after again. And there's a much wider discussion to that. It sticks in my throat when you get a player award ceremony and they're all out in the town pissed, getting photos taken and all that this morning. It genuinely does. And it comes again to the weekend. And what do you do about it? Because here we go again, and we'll just have to try. And we could end up beating them 3 times this year and still be 14 points behind. And that is horrendous. It really, really is. Boys, I don't even know if I've got a question to ask you. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to. I want to move on from Saturday, and I want to move on in the players, but I feel like they've given such a free ride, or we have, and they don't deserve it, because you see that on Saturday and you see the performance continue. If it was me and I had a guy in that was a club legend and he's asking you stuff and he's outright saying they're not listening to me and they're not doing as they're told, I would be embarrassed. But this group, I don't think you could paint their necks with a blowtorch.
I'll go. Because it's just a concession at this point, right?
Somebody come in and help me from drowning in that.
But Stevie, it's as we said on the weekend, we have nothing new to say, because we've had to say the same stuff time and time again. These players simply are not good enough because they don't try, and we know they can. They just fail to do so because they don't care, and that's the damning thing here. Rangers teams have been built on players overperforming or performing when it matters, because they get it. It matters to them. You look through that team and no one there seems to give a damn about how Rangers do. And it's been a poor season, and the players will point fingers everywhere but themselves. But the truth is that they have let themselves down this season. They've failed to deliver when it counts, because it's not about your glamorous games. Like the old firm, as you say, Stevie, we could win that 3 times this season, and we're still going to finish near 20 points behind. We went really deep in Europe, which is unusual. But for us, it doesn't feel unusual because we've done it so often. But time and time again, year on year in the league, this group of players consistently just under-deliver. because they don't care. And that's really, I mean, it's damning on them, quite frankly, to see just a lack of passion and lack of effort on their part, because they're not being paid buns. They're being paid a decent amount to play for us. And time after time, week on week, as we've said repeatedly on this pod, they are just continually letting us down and underperforming.
Andy, Stuart, see before we move on, mate, anything else to kind of sum up when we talk about this squad, Saturday, etc.?
I'm just thinking, obviously, seeing today a lot of the reaction to the end of season awards, and this isn't the first time we've seen this kind of. We have a big swanky evening. We pass out awards to the Player of the Year, the top goal scorer. And we get the same. This is embarrassing when we have a season as bad as this. I get that we kind of have to do it from tradition, I suppose, and commercial standpoint, but it's almost like a slap in the face. But it's been years on end. The last few years, it's been the same thing. You can go back on the same people's timelines that you see angry about on Twitter a year ago, and you'll see the same thing. Why are we doing this? The reason I don't do it is because I'm fed up of it. To be honest, fed up is becoming the tone that we're having to pick up, and it's not on. And that's the thing, is we can say it's not on, and we can be angry, and we have for the last God knows how many months now. But as you said, these players don't give a damn. They'll pick up their check, when their contract's down, they'll be off. They'll already have an eye on where they want to go in the summer. They'll be talking to their agents. We wanted Barry to come in. Well, when Barry came in, we thought he might get through to them, because one thing Barry can do is have a go at them. And these players just don't care, which is incredible. That we said that Clement couldn't do it because he can't motivate these players. He can't get through to them. Ferguson can do it, and even Barry can't. It's how far low are these professionals to where we're reaching these standards, and it's absolutely ridiculous. They should all hang their heads in shame. It's representing a club that wants to win trophies and is playing in European ties. That's not just run-of-the-mill League Two players down south. This is pinnacle of European football and where we want to be. Our aspirations are up there. These players are falling too far short of that to have any goodwill left in the tank. And they can, as you said, they can all go as far as I'm concerned. I'm not got a long list of players I'm willing to keep. There's none of that anymore.
Right, I think 18 minutes is far too long to talk about these players and talk about Saturday. We will move on to other news from the weekend. If people have got questions, etc., get them in. I see Paul's put one in. We'll kind of do some questions and stuff at the end. This is what you asked to do, folks. You asked for live shows, and you asked for the chance to do Q&As and stuff like that. So get them in, and we'll see what we do. Rumours over the weekend, Marco Rose. Not fond of his choices of hat and scarf, but suddenly went to favourite as Rangers manager from out of nowhere. So it's between him and Gerrard up at the favourites at the top of the bookies, and it doesn't take a lot to move bookies odds. But the former Leipzig manager is now joint favourite, whatever way you want to put it, to become our next manager. And the interesting thing about him, Kenny, is he would require a complete reversal of this squad's ability. We would need to rip it up. We would need to start all over again, because he plays football and we don't have the squad that would be able to do it under him. So if we're going down that road, that might be significant to suggesting that this new owners or board or director of football or sporting director, or whoever you want to, shares the opinion of us that this first team need gutted. And that could be quite interesting.
Yeah, and he's been fairly successful over his career. Give him that. Started didn't start, but took over at Salzburg, won the league a couple of times there, won the cup there as well. Did well with Mönchengladbach. Went to Dortmund for his second, and he was at Leipzig, and it lasted a couple of years there. But what he does do, Stevie, is he plays 4-4-2, which would be a nice thing to see, but he plays it with a diamond, which means one holding midfielder. So it is an attacking brand of football. What I've noticed, having a little bit of a dig about his teams, they're all big, strong teams. Disappointed. I actually seen the game over at Parkhead with Leipzig earlier on in the season, and his team got a doing. So that's always a little bit concerning when you look at his record. You know, coming to Ibrox with Dortmund and didn't get a result there, although we all know Jude Bellingham was brilliant that night in the first half in particular. But look, I don't know huge amounts about him apart from what I've read. I'm not a massive watcher of German football, so it is one of those things. He's got a connection to Red Bull, as we know, who have a connection to the 49ers. So there might well be something in it. You know, you'll know better than me, mate. Let's be honest. But I don't really know what to make of it because it kind of came out the blue. I had seen his name being mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and yeah, the hat and scarf thing might haunt him if he does get the job, because you know they'll play on that, but with good reason, because we would do so as well. But let's not kid ourselves. In the context of what he was talking about with that picture, he was talking about Glasgow in general and how he had been to Ibrox and he'd wanted to go and see over there and Hampden, because he's been a follower of football all his days and he's noticed that the atmosphere in Glasgow is second to none. So what to make of the picture, I'm not really going to comment any further.
Here's my biggest thing, Andrew Anderson. My biggest issue is you get somebody like that in, right, who needs a complete reversal of the squad and everything else. And probably you could be as well saying, Stevie, everybody's going to need that, which is fine. But if we get somebody in like that and it's such a big project, you're writing off years, right? And then what happens if like Clement and like Beale and Gio, those projects don't work? We're just setting ourselves back. And my biggest issue is that perhaps somebody like Rose is too big a gamble at this moment in time. Perhaps you need somebody that's going to slightly bridge the gap, make us difficult to beat, make us back to where we kind of need to be up and beyond, and then somebody else like Rose would come in and take us that next step. Perhaps at the moment we need a bridging gap, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily 100% true, but there's a worry in there for me that somebody like Rose would be a massive gamble. Thoughts on that?
I think, as you say, the issue is pretty much anyone coming in is going to want to radically change the makeup of this team, because we've all said collectively we don't think there's anyone there we'd stick up for and want to keep. The problem is that's not going to happen. We can't get rid of everyone, much as we would like to. So whoever's coming in is going to need to work with some members of this squad. And as you say, it's a question of, can they do it with some of this group of players, or is it going to be a complete revamp and they need to get rid of absolutely everyone over the course of a couple of windows? And we'll have to be patient and wait for success to come. Because I don't really think the fan base are in the mood for being patient anymore. We've seen, as you say, projects for the last 3-4 years now. Beale and Gio and everyone else. We've seen that happen, and the fans will be patient to a degree if they see us building towards something. The problem is we've seen a number of these projects start and fail to deliver even the signs of progress. You could say with Beale that he was potentially building something. You could say that about Clement, that he was trying to build something. But the issue is when you start building something and then it doesn't look like it's continuing to work, when the wheels come off, as they invariably do with this group of players, then fans lose their patience. Steven Gerrard, who I'm mentioning just because it's a historical reference, I don't know anything, but I'm mentioning him because we could see progress building there. Even though the team fell away in the later half of the seasons that he was in charge, in those first halves, you could see us building towards something. And then you saw us building towards something when we came back the subsequent season. The problem that we've seen with other managers is that they haven't demonstrated that. They haven't shown that they are building something. So, as we've said, any manager coming in is going to need to do a rebuild, but they need to start showing progress in that rebuild. Because if they don't, we're going to be doing a similar podcast this March next year.
Stevie, can I just jump in very quickly on what you both said there, right? The reason I mentioned the 4-4-2, and it's partly because I listened to you and Chris, Jack, the other day on your show over in the Rangers Review, talking about who you would keep, who you would go, that kind of stuff. And basically, you yourself admitted that we probably need an entire brand new back five as starters. So, if you're going to sit there and consider that Jack Butland is at a poor season, the back four, that is almost like a revolutionary plan to bring somebody like Marco Rosa in. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're going that far away from what we've been trying to do over the last few years, that it is a massive, massive overhaul in the summer. I think they're going to try and get as many of these guys out the door as they can. And I think that's needed, clearly. But what I mean by saying that going back to a 4-4-2, the system that this boy plays and the pressing style that this guy plays are totally different from what we've been trying to do. And I'm not saying I would be excited by him, but I can understand why they would be looking at him for sure.
Andrew Stewart, just before we come to you, massive thanks to Haggis Killer, who has gifted 5 Four Lads of the Dream Rangers podcast memberships. Huge thanks. As I said, people asked how can we support the show, and we don't want to charge people. That's not what we want to do. This is a free site for everyone to come and enjoy. It always has been the 7 years I've done this. But people were adamant, want you to go live, want you to do this and that and everything else, and we will support it. So we went live. We've opened up a membership from as little as 99p a month, and when people like Haggis Killer support it, honestly, really, really appreciate it. So I think there's one left. If you want to grab it, then please do. And thank you to Haggis for that support. Andrew Stewart, where are you on this and on the debate of who you would want to come in as the new manager? Are you enthusiastic about the names mentioned? Do you have a favourite in mind?
I didn't have Marco Rosa in mind. As far as I was concerned, I was not in that camp at all. I just think you're falling into the Clement trap again. That's just what I fear. I know it's very negative, and I'm not giving the guy a chance. And obviously, it would change if we were to get appointed, because obviously you jump straight into the boat, and you're ready to start putting out the fires with him. But I think again, you're talking that Dortmund season. You're going from Erling Haaland, Jude Bellingham, Manuel Akanji to Cyril Dest, Nico Raskin, Robin Proper. It's that difference in where he's been to what he's getting into, which then leads into do you go for someone who's maybe slightly closer to our style and what we need, which will be we just need to stop the bleeding, I think, is the main thing, because we do. I mean, how many times we conceded 2 goals in the last? I said 9 games out of 11 under the last 11 games we've conceded 2 or more. We need a whole restructure. We're ripping it out and trying to plug the gaps and stop the bleeding. As I said, I don't know if he's up for that straight away. I don't know. I wouldn't have said he would maybe be the right man for it. Maybe down the line, as you said, Stevie, once you have gotten past this initial, choppy waters that you can start to branch out and contend on the continent with a flashier brand of football with the players that go with it. But I think we're too far away from that just yet to consider that. I'm a big Stevie. I'm not gonna lie, Stevie G. And yourself, Stevie. I'm not gonna drop you drop you out there. But Stevie G for me was gonna be an easy option for the 49ers. I think add the stability. He's been here before. He's put out fires at the club already when he came in, because again, tough times when he came in, a plan in place where he wanted to be, and he got us there. He'll be wanting to do well himself as well. I'm not going to lie and say it couldn't happen again, what happened before, that he does go down south if there's a bit of success. But again, you've still got a lot of that rebuild to do, and if it is off the back of Rangers' success and he does want to go down south again, that maybe pushes us into that flashier European style where we could go for someone that is the kind of Rosa style, or that kind of more higher tier, maybe is a better way of saying, for just a higher brand of player that can play these styles that a Rosa would demand. But I think we're too soon for that.
Right, okay, so Peggy asks, and we'll get on to some questions now, and I'm going to rapidly ask you all, would you take Gerrard with Barry and co and as his management team? Would I take Gerrard? Yes. Would I take Barry with Gerrard? No. Would I have Neil McCann, Billy Dodds, Alan McGregor? Yes. And I wouldn't take Barry because I feel that it's unfair. Barry's either good enough or he's not good enough to be manager. So I wouldn't put Barry in that position. I think Barry's taken on a hell of a job and in an awful situation with an awful squad of players. So I'm not here to criticise Barry, that's for sure. Steven Gerrard is a yes for me. Kenny, quick answer, yes or no?
Gerrard, yes. One or two of the backroom staff, possibly. And I agree with you with Barry. If he's not getting the job, then I don't think it's fair to even consider asking him to stay on and take a demotion. Really, that's not on.
Andrew Anderson?
Same as Kenny, I think. With Gerrard, I think it does depend on the backroom team and who could potentially be coming with him. I think if exactly the same management team come back with him, that's going to be a bit controversial. Backroom staff, I think Neil McCann and Billy Dodds have proven that they can do useful things tactically for us. Set pieces have been better, in amongst our defence falling apart. And with Barry, I don't think he'd accept being the assistant manager. I don't see that working realistically. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay, so Jimbo, questions more interesting talking about Rangers. What's your favourite chocolate bar? I'm a complete athlete. What a suggestion that I should eat chocolate. So no, I do not drink, do not smoke, don't eat chocolate. There's a suggestion perhaps that I'm a wee bit addicted to Haribo and things, but you can decide that for yourself. Kenny, favourite chocolate bar? You're muted, Kenny.
Yeah, incredible. I love live TV.
Do you know, I hit the wrong button, mate. That's embarrassing. I hit the exit full screen button there. I don't eat huge amounts of chocolate, but Snickers for me. Or a cream egg.
Andy and Andy?
Or a Twix.
Can I do the overpriced dairy milk at Ibrox?
Right, we got dairy milk and Yorkie, Stevie. We excited? We happy with that?
Yeah, I love it. Good question. Stevie, question for you. Would you take Casa back for another season on loan? Paul, 100%. 100%. I like the look of him. I actually thought he could be our right back before he got injured. Would I take another look at him? Yes, I would. I think he's been unlucky. Seems to have recovered fairly quickly as well, which I like. Would I like to see him get some game time before I get towards the end of the season? Absolutely. So yes, 100%. Next question, Tommy's Cardigan. Realistically, how much you expect to spend on a new squad? Realistically, it depends. I would think that we would probably have 10 to 15 million available to spend, and that would probably be topped up with a few sales, or made up of some money and a few sales from the likes of Dowell, Ben Davies, etc. For it to be a whole lot more, I think you have to balance it up between a really big sale, somewhere on the lines of Raskin and Eagleman, going for a lot of money. I don't think there's an obvious way for Rangers to suddenly come in and spend 30, 40 million in the summer without breaking levels and things like that. So that would need to be kind of explained to me. Suggestion at the weekend that we were going to dump our front of shirt sponsors and get in Red Bull and stuff like that. That's complete conjecture. And I was reading that and it disappoints me because then people take it as being for granted and that's what's going to happen. It's somebody's opinion. And that might be what happens, but it's not happening next season. It's not happening immediately because the shirts and all that are already done. We already got a new deal with Unibet in the group last summer. So if we want to break that, you're having to spend a whole lot of money to break that just to put more money in. I'm not sure how viable that is realistically straight away. So that's not going to boost you in the summer. Likewise, if you want to do things with the stadium, these are all longer term things. So I'm not sure to answer that question realistically. How much do we expect to spend on a squad? And it goes back to a controversial point I made on the tipping point with Chris, where we have to be a wee bit smarter about who we get in and who we sign, and there will be people that we pick up. Josh Mulligan at Dundee is a smart thing to look at because of these things. I'll go back and say again, and people don't like it, Lawrence Shanklin coming in as third or fourth striker. People don't like that option. Could you go and get somebody else in? Fine, maybe, but you need to be smarter in what you're doing and who you're bringing in. You'll need to pick up a few guys on free and try and mould the squad as well as getting other overpaid ones out. And these are just names that you can throw about. There's quite a few in English Premiership and the Championship that will be available as well. So we're going to have to be an answer to that. People that think we'll spend 50 million, I'd be amazed, boys, if we spent that amount of money. And I'll just throw it out to a kind of open forum from you. I do not expect millions and millions and millions. If we could get 15 spent well, then I would think that's going to be, unless you get a big massive sale, unless you get a Raskin big sale, a Eagleman big sale, then I don't think we can do it, and I don't think it'll happen.
I think the spending it well thing is key, Stevie, because some of our best transfers recently have been the ones we've got for free or for cheap. And some of our worst transfers have been the ones that we've spent loads of money on. So we don't have to look too far back in our own history to see how badly we can spend money. It's about spending it the right way. I think the general thrust of the strategy has been good in terms of getting younger players who have got sell-on value. That should be the way to do it. But if you're looking to supercharge this team and get it to a place where it can be actively competing for the title, which I think we would need to do, we are going to need to spend that extra money. But it's a question of spending it the right way. So you got to be hoping for a more successful hit rate than we've had in the past, because you're probably saying like 7, 8 out of 10 of these players coming in. That's just out of 10. I do not know how many players we're going to sign or anything like that. But it's that kind of ratio that you need to be hitting to ensure that you get a good return on your investment, which is winning stuff and also developing players that you can then flog for more money. Like you say, Stevie, I think it's inevitable. It's going to have to be financed by whatever players we can get money for. But I'm hopeful that anyone watching this isn't, taking our word, because obviously all our players are superstars and worth billions, and we'd be, regretful to let them go after having praised them so much.
Andy Stewart?
I'm thinking to when, we bring in McGregor on a free, we bring in Arfield on a free, shrewd piece of business that can make an impact in the squad, and for very little in return, just wages in those two cases. Real good piece of business and two great servants. And that shows you what you can get if you are active and you can isolate the right targets for the style of play, whoever the manager will be, that if they can find those players that they want and maybe have knowledge of from prior places or prior scouting at other clubs, that certainly can help us because, there will be a section of the fan base that wants instant success. As Andrew said, there is a good amount who are fed up of trebles going across the city, constant Champions League football for them, which is only going to make the quote golf and spend bigger. We need to start cutting that down. How much leeway do they get for that? I don't know. How much time we're going to have to take to rebuild the foundations. That'll come into play, but smart signings for we need Wheel and Dale if we need to, because we're going to need to get guys out. I don't want to see Kieran Dale anywhere near this team next season. If that happens, we have failed, and the 49ers are awful. And I will never stand again and say this whole rebuild is brilliant. But that would be a step too far for me. But the outgoings are just as important as the incomings because we've seen it windows after windows recently. I love it a bits, but how difficult is it going to be to move on a Ravi Matondo? We didn't we didn't exactly get him for cheap. He was a nice amount of money going out, and the wages are pretty high. For not a lot of purple patches in his CV. So you're going to have to find the right club to take him on, which is going to be rather difficult for a number of these players. So that's going to be what catches the eye in the summer.
Kenny, what do you expect from the summer? I know we're drifting away a wee bit, but to answer the viewers' questions tonight, this is their show. What are you expecting?
Right, I'll be a wee bit more controversial, I suppose. I think I don't believe for a minute that the 49ers are coming in here to finish second. I think their intention is to finish first. Now, we're all aware that there's a complete rebuild having to be made. And we as fans are absolutely used to that. We do it every year. And my point would be, Stevie, that I think they'll probably be looking at being totally aware of it, that it'll take 25 million to start with just to get a spine of a team that's going to be capable of playing 40, 50, 60 games a season. I think that they'll probably be fully aware of that. And then I think that somewhere between 20 and 25 million there. And then I would expect, quite honestly, this season, Stevie, just about every single penny that we get from transfer fees to be added to that to speed up the process. If they can, guys like Cyril Dessers, Yilmaz, perhaps even a Moby Diamandi, who I don't think looks a particularly happy player at all here. I think he wants to go in the summer. I've just the body language thing. You've got perhaps a Raskin or an Eager man that might go. The guys that are out on loan at Birmingham. There's plenty of players out there. Robin Propper's another one that you could perhaps, excluding the players you're going to get the most for, a Raskin or an Eager man, you could be bringing in 15, 20, 25 million pounds in total. And I would expect a large chunk of that to get spent as well. I actually do. And I could be completely deluded with that. I just have that feeling that they're not going to muck about too much. With a manager of the calibre of Rossi coming in, that suggests to me that they're going to spend reasonably big.
Yeah, I'm going to make a comment on that just in a minute. Look, thanks again. Bluebells are blue, gifted 10 Four Lads of the Dream, the Rangers podcast memberships. You can click on them on the 10 gifts bit to grab one. Unbelievable support from Bluebells. He gave 5 last time as well. Now giving 10. Really, really appreciate it, mate. You were one of the ones that asked us to go live as fans watching. And we really, really appreciate it. So thank you for those supports. That means tonight alone we've picked up 15 new memberships, which is incredible for us. We'll very soon be heading towards 100. And what will happen is, and what we're going to do is, things that you've asked for. You asked for live podcasts. We're doing it. You asked for interviews. Wait to see who Stevie's got lined up, because she's all either love it or extremely hate it. But there's some good ones there. And you asked for member shows, daily updates, things like that. These are all things we can do. And once the membership goes to a level where we're getting towards now, where it's into the hundreds and things like that, that's what we'll start doing. So thank you, Bluebells, genuinely, for your support. 5 last week, 10 this week, mate. Thank you so much. See, at this rate, you might even be coming on as a podcast guest, because you're practically sponsoring the show. So talk more sense than me anyway. So you're welcome to come on anytime. There's over 2,000 people watching this, folks. We really appreciate it. Here's what I'm going to say about money getting spent. And this is only my opinion, folks, right? I've seen us spend 15, 20 million in summers and try and buy 11 players and try and squeeze it all in. I would much rather we said, and this is, again, it's only my opinion, if we had 20 million to spend, I'd much rather we went, we need a £5 million centre back, we need a 5 million winger, we need a £5 million striker, and we need a £5 million central midfielder throughout the spine of our team. And we spent it on quality that we can then build on. So you get 3 or 4 first start quality players instead of buying guys. And I know that money doesn't, look, this will take good scouting and everything else. And there was a question before about changing. Oh yeah, we do need to change like physicality. No, absolutely. But I would love to see us just go for quality, get the absolute quality. Instead of buying 2 or 3 guys for 6 million, buy one guy for 6 million and make him your benchmark of the team. If that's what we can do. And then you just say, look, yeah, that's the cornerstone of my team are in 4 or 5 first starters. We can get other players in and build around 2 or 3 that are there. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but this can't be done in one window unless you have 100 million. It can't be done in one window. It's going to take time. It's going to take windows. And I would rather, it's only my opinion, we go for quality over quantity. And that might change if you get more players out. If you make big sales, you could get 2, for example, in. But I think we have to invest in a wee bit of quality to be able to take that forward. And that's only my opinion on that. I would much rather see some genuine quality when it comes to... I'm going to answer this question as well. I answered it from Mark last week, but I'm going to tackle it again. Do you guys think Sean Dyche would be good? Gareth Southgate, Rafa Benitez? Gareth Southgate, no. He's miles out of our price range. Sean Dyche was on 100 grand a week at Everton. We need to be realistic. If Sean Dyche could come in at Rangers, you would talk about it. But I think that's just for the Kevin Thelwell thing. Rafa Benitez, no. Sorry, not for me. I'm not sure Rafa Benitez would be interested in it either. I think that's just pie in the sky, paper talk. Does anyone disagree, Kenny?
No, I don't necessarily agree. Sean Dyche, never been a massive fan. Southgate, you're right. He was on, what was it, 7 million a year when he was at England. 7 or 8 million a year, that's not going to happen. And he will go to the Premier League when a job comes up. And Rafa Benitez, it's been a long time since Benitez has done anything, isn't it? And he's been one of those guys that in the last 10 years has just kind of stoked about a little bit, not lasted very long anywhere and not been particularly successful. So none of them for me, to be honest. And I'm with you on Sean Dyche. If there is something about Sean Dyche that is quite appealing to some folk, I'm struggling to see it, but I can understand why he does get talked about.
Andy and Andy, do you think differently from that list? You would take Southgate, wouldn't you? Of course you would. If Gareth Southgate was realistic, but he's well out of our league, and you're not going to get Gareth Southgate. Sean Dyche is on a hell of a lot of money. I don't think he would come here either. But he might be the kind of building block thing that I was talking about. I don't see those names as being realistic. Them two. Rafa Benitez, maybe, but I'm not sure I'm keen on Rafa Benitez because what's he really done recently? Is he kind of, has football moved on? I don't know if that's even realistic to say that. Boys, do you think otherwise?
I think it was the same with Jose Mourinho, which was, that sounds great, that'd be fun and entertaining, but I don't realistically see it happening because although we know that the 49ers are going to come in and spend money, they aren't going to spend that much money, not on one position, as hilarious as someone like Mourinho might be. It comes down to someone who's prepared to be part of a project, right? But again, they're going to need to be someone who delivers quickly. So it's a difficult one to go for, but I think your big established names like Southgate, like Sean Dyche, feel unlikely to me, just because they will be eyeing up jobs in the Premiership instead. And I think that's unfortunately just a reflection of where we sit in that level of priority.
I think Rafa Benitez is, again, if he's 2009 maybe, 2010-ish, 11, cool, great. That's a superb appointment. Was the last place he was at? Celta Vigo, I think, and it's. I think you've I've got nothing against Rafa. That I'm not just a anti Benitez guy, but I think that era of football maybe has passed potentially. And we need to take in the long term. I think we need to look ahead to the modern part of the game. But I think we're going to have this discussion about a catch in between, where a dice kind of maybe harder to break down style works. But yeah, I don't see any of those coming in. I would be surprised to say the least. But no, I think that's good for the papers, but maybe not for reality.
Okay, so final question. We've been on for almost an hour. We're just shy 50 odd minutes now. I don't want to bore people too much. Jimbo's question. Here's a question. We know we aren't getting rid of all the players, but what players do you genuinely see us selling and moving on? Interesting that, because you never know, do you? I think we have sellable assets, as weird as that sound. People are going to want Cyril Dessers. And listen, Big Cyril, it's not a criticism of him, and he's scored a lot of goals for us, but he's 31 and he's got a sellable price tag. Yilmaz will be interesting, never fit. Please get to sold as soon as possible. Dowell, Ben Davies, there's going to be interesting guys. Cifuentes. Are you going to get a lot of money? Probably not, but you can maybe get more that you can then add to the coffers and be able to spend. Raskin, going to be loads of interest in Raskin. There was interest in Raskin in January from a very big side, and they couldn't agree on a fee. So come the summer, 100% Nico Raskin's going to have interest. Eagleman going to have interest. There'll be interest in Danilo. Teams will want him on loan, 3 years left. We know then that Lawrence is going to go. We know that Hadji's going to go. We know that Balogun will probably go. Cole McKinnon. There's a few youngsters and things that will go to clear out. So it's not going to be a lot of money, but you're going to make squad space. And then could you invite offers for others? Then that's what we'll need to do. It's a big job, that's for sure. A really, really, really big job of who they're going to bring in. That's absolutely for sure. But Kenny, just bring you in on this one, and then Andy's will ask you also. Do you think that's fair? Is there anybody else I'm missing out that we could potentially want to move on? Because you would look. I mean, there's nobody that you wouldn't want to move on, but who realistically our team's going to be going for?
Oh yeah, exactly. And when the new manager does come in, everybody starts with a clean slate. He will have a look at everybody, I would imagine, apart from those that are out of contract and stuff like that, naturally. But here's the thing: Nico Raskin to Leeds for 25 million. That solves a problem, doesn't it? Solves a big, big problem.
It's like in Champ Manager where you add an extra manager in, isn't it? To buy your players.
Yeah.
That's 40 days.
But for me, there is... Listen, if I'm being honest, I'd probably keep Jack Butland. Because I think there's more priorities in the rest of the team. And allow him the time off that he's had, and the entire back line, you probably keep Yefty. Tavernier, I would imagine, is going to stay. But I don't see him starting as a first choice next season. So that's an issue because of the money he's on. John Souttar, I would probably keep. Not as my first choice necessarily. I'd like to keep Nico Raskin. I'd probably like to keep Mo Diamande and Hamza Egeman. I would like to see is if it was possible keeping Kearney on the right hand side. If there was a way at all of getting out the deal with Cortez, I would be looking at that. I very much doubt there is. And that's my feel. I off the top of my head, mate, I genuinely cannot think of any of them that I would be bothered about. And Big Leon Balogun is a difference because he's just kind of packed in the second half of this season, hasn't he? I mean, he was struggling right at the beginning of the season, but Old Father Time's got the better of him now. And for me personally, I would not be offer him a new contract, but I think I heard you say that if he was fourth, fifth choice, you wouldn't have an issue with that. Young Enciala as well, I would like to keep, but I also happen to agree with you that I would consider putting him out at a Dundee or literally a Ross County or something like that for a year and get him used to our league and see how he copes. But apart from that, everybody can go.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few people in the comments saying you wouldn't keep this one, you wouldn't keep that one, but I think got to be realistic. You can't sell everybody. There is going to be 10 or 12 that no matter what you think will end up staying. And personally, the only one I would disagree with, I don't think James Tavernier can stay this summer. I think there's too much Andrew Anderson under him. I think that no matter what goes wrong, he's a lightning rod for everything. I also think that the club needs a clean break. I also think James Tavernier needs a clean break for 40 grand a week. He's not going to be back up. So I think James Tavernier, come this summer, you shake his hand and that's really the end of it. But that's only my opinion. I realise again. And by the way, listen, I'm not here to hate on Tav. I think Tav's at time has had a really kind of grim time with it. And if people brought his levels, maybe we wouldn't be where we are now at times. But it is the right time, Andrew Anderson. Is there anybody else that you would kind of look to keep or think we could sell from that question?
I think on Tav, first of all, that's exactly the player I was going to say. Because as Kenny said, you'd maybe keep him, but probably not as a starter. I don't think you'd be justifying paying that amount of wages out on a player who's not going to be starting for you. He's done. And as you say, it's slightly unfair. He's going to be a lightning rod, but that is going to change. It's not going to get any easier. He will be a lightning point for all criticism. And on that basis, yeah, he's got to go. I agree with what Singing the Blue says, given the testimonial versus Leeds and then cheers, see you later. Beyond that, I think Raskin, Egeman, those are your big ticket ones in terms of saleable assets. You'd like to keep those potentially because they represent potential earnings in the future. But by the same token, if you're looking to finance this, then they may well be the ones that you have to move on because they will help finance players who are hopefully even better than that. But the priority, I think, is the guys who aren't even playing for us, the loanees, the players who are not featuring, including certain ones who we've got signed up to like a 4-year obligation to buy deal who, great, but no, thank you, please go away. That's who you should be targeting for players to move out. But it's going to be a tough job for a director of football because, as folk in the comments have pointed out, a lot of these players are on good wages and they probably won't feel the urge to be rushed out the door so easily.
Yeah, Andy Stewart. I just think that if you're paying Butland and Tavernier as some of your highest earners at our club, they have to be starting. Do you have any other different opinion, not only on that, but just on the kind of player sale wider and stuff like that?
I think with the Tav, Butland, I think it's important for this new manager that comes in that he has the free rein to, if he decides Tav isn't who he wants, then that's fine. I don't want him having to be shoehorned into, no, your right back is Tav because he's just has been. That's not on. You want your new manager to have the clean slate and see it the way he wants to see it. Same with Butland. If he thinks Butland isn't the one for him, then it's fair. That's the manager's opinion, and that's ultimately who should, in this case, be making the decisions about how we're going to play. That player's not going to fit my style, so can you make a deal to move him on? That's the way it has to be. We need to be more cutthroat. And again, I mean, as you said, I don't hate on Tav. There's been times where the guy's been absolutely unbelievable for us. The run to Seville, top goal scorer in the entire Europa League campaign. The Wikipedia page does him really, really well. Minus the picture, it's quite an unflattering picture of him mid-aerial battle. But, that side, the numbers that are there, fair play, thank you for your time, but we need to start looking ahead because we're maybe 3-4 years too late on that position by itself. I think we should have had a contingency plan at right back for a number of seasons now. But the clean slate is the main thing. There should be nobody that is nailed in that they need to stay. That's not on. The manager has to have that, authority to say, no, doesn't work for me. And in that case, we then have to move them on. I think that's crucial because if that's not the case, and we're having to churn out what would be last season's team after the summer break, which again you're going to have European qualifiers, so the clock's ticking. I think then we're selling ourselves short in the summer window.
Yeah, well, look, let's leave it there. Over an hour on a live podcast. I think we've done a remarkably good job. 2,378 folk watching. 16 new members tonight have joined the YouTube membership, which we absolutely love. If you want to join, you can just sign up. There's links in the description and things as well, and membership is available for as little as 99p a month. This is what you asked us to do. We are going to, just to reiterate, bring some really fun podcasts with some ex-players, divisive podcasts, which ex-Rangers players only. It's not Chris Sutton. For the guys that said before, it absolutely is not Chris Sutton, I can assure you. But a lot of kind of fun things are coming. We'll do some live stuff and everything else, so we really appreciate it. Kenny, my man, we missed you for the couple of days that you were off, but great to have you back.
No, thoroughly enjoyed that, mate. Good to get back in the saddle, and good show, lads. Well done.
Andrew Anderson, thank you as ever, mate.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. And I would like to say to not only the existing members, but all of our new members as well, that the most important thing that you can do with that membership is use stickers like the one that's just next to Kenny's head there in the chat. Sets you apart, means you can show off your membership, and that's really the most important benefit I think that you get with membership. Sure, it helps us grow and it's very appreciated, all that stuff. Yeah. But stickers though, like, come on, that's where it's at, right? But thank you anyway, and everyone for joining as well.
When are we getting a Kenny sticker? I'm pretty sure we have one. Yep, that's it right there. That is, believe it or not, Kenny.
Can I just reiterate, this is an AI of me and Phil Mitchell combined. Not really me, to be fair. I'm much better looking than that. Way better looking than that. Look at it.
Yeah, but it is. It's so visually realistic of what we've had to put up with this year. Andrew sticker. Andrew won't do it because he's the one that sets them up. So he won't do it.
Everyone encourage Stevie and Kenny to learn how to do it, because then it will happen.
Just get on with it, Andrew. Get it done.
No, this is more fun this way. It's more fun for me this way.
Andy,
I see you, Tom. I'm not buying you a pint the next time I see you now.
Andy Stewart, thanks for joining me, mate. Appreciate it.
Cheers for coming on. Another interesting group therapy session as the season winds down. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, and the support again from all the guys in the live chat, the the membership's top class as always. So yeah, thank you very much.
And folks, listen, thanks for joining us. Huge thanks to our podcast sponsors, who are Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athlon Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, with our partners Black Rooster and Art of Gold. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do these shows without you. 2,300 odd people watching. Unbelievable. Thank you, everybody, for your support of Four Lads and a podcast. What's coming up this week? Kenny and I have a show out on Wednesday, Talking Takeover. So we will be there for that. Also covering the women's game on Wednesday night. And then we'll have a weekend pod on the build-up to Sunday's Old Firm game, and also match day vlog on Sunday as well to round up the week. There is podcasts coming with ex-players. As soon as they are recorded, we will get them available for members first. So members will have 2 or 3 days to watch them first as a little perk. I think you're going to enjoy these. I'm not going to say any names yet, but some of them are extremely controversial ex-players. And we'll also get some that I think would come into the hero brackets as well. So really appreciate everyone's support. Thanks for joining us on Four Lads. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. Your subs are so important to us on YouTube. The more subs we have, the more things we can do. The more I can go to the club and say, well, look, we've got 6,500 subs. This would be really beneficial. Or we can go to ex-players and go, we've got 6,500 subs. The base is there. People want to listen to you. So, yeah, let's do that. But appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Have a lovely week. That's for sure.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.